Good afternoon and welcome to UnitedTV. My name is Kemal Erkan. This is our diabetes wellness webinar, and we are going to talk about eating out with diabetes and how to build your plate when you are out. Caroline and Donna are going to join me, and I'll wait for them. All right. How are you guys doing? And can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, because we have new
everyone.
We have new sound system, so we have to make sure that it's working properly. So, well, thank you for joining us, and we are going to discuss many people, they do either sometime for work, sometime for pleasure. We have to eat out, and when you have diabetes, this becomes a bigger challenge. So Caroline is going to help us with the clinical side of this from the nutrition side of it. And then Don and we are going to join the discussion after she finishes her presentation.
Okay, let me share my screen. Are you able to see it okay?
Right, yep.
Okay, perfect. Well, welcome. We're talking about dining out with diabetes today. We know it's a busy season, lots of travel, maybe work days are longer, and maybe eating out is something that needs to take place every now and then with, fast-paced lives going one place to another. Sometimes it's unavoidable, and we shouldn't have to avoid it. We should feel confident and comfortable in making decisions for our health and for maybe our diabetes and blood sugar management, and come up with tools that we can use when we're in these situations. Convenience is a good thing, and so we want to make sure we can utilize that well. But we also live in a day and age when we have access to a lot of information. So a lot of the places we'll talk about today have nutrition labels that are available on menus and websites. Most places now even offer healthier options, so we'll talk about that a little bit. Diabetes can be really difficult to manage at times, so we want to set you up for confidence and for knowledge that you can use going into maybe favorite places or not feeling excluded when you are going out with friends and family. So first, we're going to talk about where do we start. So we want to make sure that we have a plan. Picture this, you are, hungry and you're smelling all the delicious smells that are wafting through the air, and you see a giant menu. That can be overwhelming. I know I have many times gone in somewhere and ended up ordering something that just sounded really good without thinking, maybe I could have done something better to make me feel fuller longer, or especially if you're trying to manage your blood sugar. You want to make sure you have a plan ahead because it can be overwhelming if you go in hungry. It's like the Snickers commercial. You are not you and you're hungry, and I fully stand by that. But if we approach the situation with intentions of balancing our blood sugar, this can help us manage those external stimuli that are kind of making it overwhelming. So deciding on a place you want to go beforehand, maybe you have a couple options, maybe a handful of restaurants you want to choose from. Picking that specific restaurant can allow you to prepare ahead of time by maybe glancing at the restaurant. Maybe there's a restaurant out there that offers you more customization options. So that's always an option to choose one of those places. And even identifying 2 or 3 options on the menu to see, okay, I have a first choice, a second choice, a third choice, because sometimes things don't work out. Maybe something's not updated online or something changes with their current menu. You have options that you can choose from so that you're not kind of thrown for a loop for that. We also want to see if it's possible to be mindful about maybe appetizer. Is there going to be something ahead of the meal that we need to think about and be mindful about? Appetizers at most places are pretty carb based, a thing of bread on the table, maybe it's chips and dip. Those types of carbohydrates we need to also take into account affect our blood sugar through the entire meal experience. So this can start off a little bit rocky if we're prioritizing those carbs earlier in the meal, then having carbs at the meal, then maybe something after the meal. You've got a whole bunch of carbs coming in at once, which in turn raises your blood sugar to an even higher level. So maybe we'll talk about a couple different options appetizer-wise as we go through some menu surfing that we'll do in a moment to see what are some better options that we might be able to choose that could still help you partake in the appetizer with your friends or people you're gathering with, but also keep in mind your blood sugar and help that to stabilize through the meal too. We also want to take into account The sugary beverage options that might be, options that you might choose, like iced tea, or maybe you're going to choose lemonade, or maybe there's an alcoholic beverage that has a lot of sugar in it. We want to be aware of those things going into the meal. If we fully intend on partaking, we need to be prepared on how we will shift our meal in order to account for those specific sugary options. Those sugary beverages will raise your blood sugar fairly quickly, so just be aware using your medication as ordered. If you have questions about how to, if you're using insulin, dose that appropriately, be sure to talk to your dietitian as well as your provider. We also want to think about after the meal, right? Desserts and drinks sometimes follow after the meal. So coming in prepared, knowing I am going to have dessert today. So that might impact the choice that you might have for an appetizer or a meal item. We might want to prioritize those carbohydrates at the end rather than in the beginning if that dessert item is more important to you. There are some workarounds as well to the sugary beverages and the dessert options. We could maybe alter the type of drink to a sort of mocktail if you want to still partake in a social drink, like a club soda with lime or fruit juice that's been like diluted. That way you're giving yourself less of a sugar load than you would if you would have had maybe a sugary mixer rather than that club soda. We also have other dessert options. Maybe it's a bowl of fruit. Maybe it is a smaller portion of something. Maybe you're splitting something, which we'll talk about in a moment. So coming in, knowing where to start, having a game plan can help take off some of the stress and anxieties of eating out while trying to manage your sugars. Now, when we get into the restaurant, menus can look overwhelming. So especially those really big ones, we'll talk about like those chain restaurants that tend to have really wide and vast options available. So knowing what to look for on a menu can be very helpful. First of all, we want to say, what are you in the mood for, right? If we're in the mood for a burger, but we're getting a salad, right? That salad might not satisfy you, it might lead you home to snack on some other things. So we want to follow part of that craving and what you're in the mood for. And then we'll work with what you're in the mood for in creating a very balanced meal the best we can. So what are you in the mood for? That preference is important. Honoring the preference can lead to better, stable blood sugars long term. If you're at a loss for what meal supports your blood sugar, use these key steps. Find your protein source. Your protein is going to balance that blood sugar out by slowing down any digestion of carbohydrates that you have. Then you want to load up on some veggies or fiber-filled items if you can. That fiber is also going to help you feel fuller longer and balance your blood sugar by slowing down the digestion of that carbohydrate. And then what is your carb source? Are you even going to partake in a carb source? It is completely your option. They are not off limits. It is more so finding a way we can eat in a way that balances those carbs so that you're not getting an elevated sugar from maybe having pasta, rice, maybe you're having bread with the meal. We want to make sure that you can still enjoy and feel confident about your decision, but also work toward modifying your meal to support your specific health needs. And then on the menu, you might see in a couple different places a balanced meal section. It might advertise as diet. There are those options help guide you, usually in lower carb dense, higher vegetable options. Usually they're protein based, which is very helpful if you don't know where to start. So that's always a place to go. Also alternative side options. So there's like say you were getting a side of French fries, there are options you could switch for maybe the vegetable, the seasonal vegetable, or steamed vegetable. Doesn't sound so exciting when you talk about it like switching out the fries, but long term, right? Prioritize where you want your carb coming from. If your after meal dessert is more important to you than those French fries, okay, great. Let's make a swap during that meal time to help support your health goals. And that way you can still enjoy, the dessert or the French fries in moderation. Also, the dessert and higher sugar beverages, thinking of that after meal or before meal experience that you're having, you might want to reduce the total amount of carbs at your meal. So, or double up on the vegetable if you can. Having that will still make you feel full during the meal. So, a double serving of broccoli or maybe a side salad, allowing you to feel full and satisfied, and then still enjoy the carb source, whether it be dessert form, beverage form, potato form, whatever form that you prefer it to be at that meal if you decide to partake in carbohydrates. Some other considerations, You want to make sure that that portion size is, you're giving some thought to how restaurants portion size their food. Most places come with a pretty large portion size, so that could mean extra carbohydrate, which could mean extra blood sugar going up. So you want to familiarize yourself with how big the portions are. If you know for a fact they are large, maybe trying to split it with a friend, going out to eat, maybe splitting the main entree and getting a salad, or maybe you're going to get a box to go and ordering. That's very helpful. The box to go I've tried before, and it's very helpful because we're often visual eaters. So if you're sitting and looking at your plate and it's not empty, we can often be triggered to keep eating. It's just a psychological response, even if we're past the point of fullness. If you allow yourself to kind of take half of that, put it in a box, and then eat the remaining half, you might find you feel full after that initial half because you have signaled to your brain, okay, I have finished my plate. Do I feel full? Obviously, if you're not full, keep eating continuously until you feel full. But we want to keep in mind that portion size aspect and giving ourselves an option to monitor the total amount of carb that we have at one time. We also want to think about, how is the food being prepared? A lot of the time we're out of our control is limited in this area when we go out to eat. We don't have control over the sodium. Usually things when we go out to eat are higher fat content. So we don't have control over all of those things, but maybe you could search for a way that food could be controlled other ways. Like, how is it cooked? Is it baked? Is it fried? Could you choose a grilled option? Those fried foods tend to have that breading on them. So that's going to increase your total carb load. So take that into account when you're thinking about all of your carb sources that you're choosing for this meal. Then we want to say, is there sauce or a dressing added on top, right? Salads can be pretty tricky sometimes because they have a lot of added things thrown in there, and you could mix the dressing in, and then all of a sudden you have as much carb as you would if you ate the burger. So allowing yourself to say, okay, can I have this sauce on the side? Is there a sugar-free dressing that I could have? Those are types of questions you want to ask yourself when choosing the food item. And then maybe opt for having having the things on the side if possible, because you're in control then. You can control, I'm going to maybe dip rather than pour and smother. And that helps to reduce the total carb load overall if we're concerned about that. So these are just some helpful things to monitor and what to look for when you're looking at your menu. And it can get overwhelming. So this is why it's helpful to go ahead of time, see what you have available. If you have that option, plan ahead, knowing a couple different varieties of things you could choose on that menu, some different side options, or even talking to your server, because they are there to help make sure that, allergies are avoided. They could talk about specific, what do you have? Have you ever served anybody with this condition? That is up to your discretion with your server, but they're there as a resource. So don't be afraid to ask them questions about how the food is prepared. So we're going to menu surf now. These are just sporadic restaurants throughout the area, some chains, some non-chain restaurants. And we'll talk about kind of some things on these lists with specific menus. So first up on the list is Applebee's. Like I said before, these chain restaurants tend to have a larger menu, but they do have some healthier options. So you can see on the right side, it's like a diet option. I don't love the wording they use in some of these. It's usually guilt-free or things like that. We shouldn't feel guilt when we eat food because food has no morals, but allowing yourself to see, okay, obviously these foods have been formulated to meet certain health goals. So you can use that to your benefit. A lot of these things are protein-based, and then you have a vegetable side, which is helpful, and then usually a smaller portion carb. So we want to use that as a guide, but you don't necessarily have to choose something off of this healthier, side of things. You can modify the best of your ability, something that might be on the menu, on the regular side of the menu. What's helpful about Applebee's is they separate it by proteins too. So you could locate your favorite protein like we talked about, and then maybe change up a side. If the side is fries, you could maybe opt for a side salad or maybe some grilled seasonal vegetables. There are some of these foods that likely won't give you any help in the blood sugar management department, like chicken fingers and French fries. While it has protein, it's primarily a carb base. So going into that, if you're going to choose that, choose it mindfully, knowing that that's probably not your best option. There are other options like a grilled chicken or maybe some fish or things that like the steak salad that we see here has a little bit of everything there and still a little bit more blood sugar friendly than you would find in maybe something that would be fried or coated in a breading. If something else catches your eye, making sure you still use those principles of maybe I'm going to share it. Like maybe it's an appetizer that's fried that's really just going to like satisfy the craving. Then making sure maybe I'll eat a little bit of it, save it for later. I'll split it with a friend, or I'm really going to prioritize vegetables at the main part of the meal if I'm going to have maybe an appetizer that's higher in carb. All about making some small adjustments to things on the menu the best that we can. Our next place we're going to look at is Italian Olive Garden. So this one is hard because Italian restaurants seem really tricky. Most meals are carb-based, so creating your pasta could become a little bit difficult, but it is not impossible. We can always see what can we add. Use that mentality when you approach, meals that don't have the full health benefit or meet your goals specifically. Can we add a topping of broccoli? Can we have chicken or meatballs and create the focus around your protein and vegetable while decreasing the focus on that carbohydrate specifically? Maybe you want the pasta on the side as your side, but the priority of that meal would be maybe grilled chicken and vegetables. That is going to help give you a better blood sugar balance than maybe getting, build your own pasta with just sauce and having a side of breadsticks. They also have a great option for, endless salads. So having that endless salad is fantastic because you've got fiber. Fiber is going to keep you full. You might find you eat smaller portions at the meal because you have that fiber in your system already. Using that My Plate is what we call it, the My Plate guide of half the plate of vegetables, a fourth of the plate of protein, a fourth of the plate of carb will help guide you in portion sizing your meal and making sure we don't overdo it with the carbohydrates. There are also other establishments that try giving you protein bases, which is very helpful because it helps you identify that first step that we talk about. So you'll see a lot of restaurants will split it up by chicken, by fish, by beef, which use that to your advantage. Use that as a starting point, especially if things start to get overwhelming. Okay. So this is one of the Cheesecake Factory is one of the ones I find most difficult because the menu is so big. There's so many options and the portions tend to be very, very large when you go here. There's also bread they put immediately on the table. So if the bread is not on your list of things to eat, making sure you tell your server not to bring it to the table. This is a great place to maybe split your meals or have to-go box ready. It's also a place that focuses primarily on dessert, right? You've got that cheesecake that you're thinking about for the whole meal. This is one of those where you want to guide your eating if you plan to have dessert afterward. Okay, how do I make sure I monitor my total amount of carb at the meal so that I can maybe enjoy a couple bites of cheesecake after? Doesn't mean you can't have the cheesecake. It also means we all know that it's going to raise your blood sugar, right? It's primarily sugar. It's going to bump it up, but doesn't mean we can't partake in it every now and then. So if we share the cheesecake, if we take some of it home, save it for later, you get to enjoy it later as well. So having those little modifications can help you decrease the total sugar load in your system at one time. You're decreasing the amount of sugar going into your body. We also can decrease the rate at which your blood sugar rises by having that protein, having that vegetable. Common theme, you'll see at all these places. Find your protein, find your vegetable. There are on this menu, there are options like salads, weight management salads. Those are great places to start. You don't necessarily have to choose those options, but if you're lost and you're like, I don't even know what to choose, those are great places to look because they have been modified already to help fit health goals. So looking for a lower carb dense item could be found on that weight management salad or other areas where it might say healthful option or diet option. There are other things that might not be the best option on this menu, like pizzas, pastas, but there are things like fish and maybe chicken or steak. Those types of things would be great places to start as well if you're looking for having a full meal, feeling satisfied, enjoying the restaurant eating experience without bumping your sugar up too high. Our next spot is probably one of my favorites on the list. I love El Diablo, mostly because it's so customizable. They also have a great online nutrition information. Most of these places do. If you research online, they could have the nutrition information for most of their menu options. If it is a chain restaurant, usually I think they have to have like 5 or 10 locations where it's a necessary guideline that they have to provide that information. You might see, like, if you go to Panera, you might see like the calories and things listed. If you go online, there is more information about the very specific carb amounts and things like that. So El Diablo specifically, great for customization for like the amount of protein. You can double the protein, you can double the vegetables, you can decide not to have carb at all and swap for, a salad base. So having those customizable options can really help guide your eating. This one is more so you can go into the restaurant and establishment and look and view all of the things that they offer because you're building, it's kind of like a build your own rather than looking ahead online. If you're looking ahead online, it's hard to visualize and see like a complete meal. So this would be one that you'd want to go in and kind of see what you have to offer. Look for your protein, look for your vegetable. Do you want a carbohydrate? And just be asking yourself these intuitive questions while you're working through building your plate, building your bowl. We want to see if we can maximize fiber, especially in a place like this. Vegetables and whole grains are going to be your best option. El Diablo or Chipotle or whatever, you build your own burrito. They tend to have a whole grain brown rice option and a white rice. There's not so much of a difference between the two. There's a lot of misinformation out there. The brown rice only has about 1 to 2 grams extra of fiber. White rice does have a higher glycemic index, which basically means it's going to raise your blood sugar a little bit quicker. But does it mean you have to have the brown rice? Absolutely not. You can bump up the fiber elsewhere with your vegetables. And just be mindful of the serving size of rice. Obviously, in the bowls, they tend to like scoop it in there. So if you know that it's going to be too big of a portion, maybe asking, can I have a bowl for like to take some home? Or maybe making a conscious effort to eat only half of that rice or ask for a smaller portion because they scoop to your liking. Mostly you could double it up or ask for a half portion if you really would like to. So our next option is going to be breakfast. A lot of breakfast places have some good options for protein, more so in the egg and breakfast meat type of deal, but there are also the pancake and French toast sprouts, which we know aren't going to be the most beneficial for blood sugar, especially because the amount you're eating, right? 3, 4 pancakes, 2, 3 slices of French toast, that's going to bump your sugar up because the carb load is so high. So try to find that protein base, whether it's an egg or two, an omelet, and maybe opt for a side. If you want that carb part of the breakfast, opt for a side of whole grain toast or a side of pancakes. That way, that is not the main focus of the meal, but rather that protein is instead. Vegetables are a little bit more difficult to include in the breakfast part of things. If you feel like you could add spinach to your omelet or an extra vegetable thrown in there or to like a breakfast hash or something, that could be beneficial because you're adding more fiber. You're going to feel fuller longer. You've helped meet some of your servings of vegetables per the day. But I know the veggies at breakfast isn't everyone's cup of tea. So just know that you can increase fiber, maybe by choosing whole grain toast. Maybe you're going to do a fruit side. Maybe you're going to have a little bit of veggies thrown into your omelet. But it's looking for what's going to satisfy you. What can I add that's going to give me protein and vegetables, fiber? And then, do I want a carbohydrate? How do I make this carbohydrate work? Is it a side? Is it a smaller portion? Do I take it home? Can I make it whole grain? Those are certain types of questions you want to be asking yourself as you're looking through these menus. Next up, we have Chili's, which is another one of our bigger chains. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't love the skinny labeling of it all, but it does have those options that are lower in calorie, lower in carbohydrate, higher in those protein and fiber components, which we do like. All foods are going to fit, but these are prioritizing specific, health needs that we're looking for. Like the make it a combo type options. You could add, a fish and a chicken. You could double up on that protein. You could add extra veggies. Lots of customizable options here. Struggling though, like if you see the appetizer, so see the triple dipper down there, that has a lot of carbohydrate thrown into one. Shareable, sure, we could make it work. But say you're having that and you're eating out a lot lately, right? We might see if you choose these options, your blood sugar incrementally increases. So that's where the moderation, so to speak, or the frequency of eating out is really important. We always talk about the pattern. Like you eating out on a Friday night is not going to, dictate your whole blood sugar journey. Sure, you might get one high or one spike from what you've eaten, but it does not dictate how well you're managing your diabetes. But the consistency and the pattern and the frequency, that matters. If you're eating out a couple times a week, right? Takeout and restaurants and those types of things, we are losing control in how the food's prepared, often losing sight of how much carb in relation to the other items we have. We might see your blood sugar start to increase. So that consistency matters, right? How frequent we go and eat out versus prepare foods by ourselves. And then the whole amount of times you eat out, we want to make sure that that is not our not our main focus of where we get our nutrients. It's fantastic to, partake and enjoy and experience it with other people. That way we're included and we have a good time, but keeping in mind your specific health goals. So keeping that in mind, asking yourself, what do you want? Will it balance your blood sugar? If the answer is yes, awesome. If the answer is no, can you modify it? Is there something you can do to help stabilize those sugar levels? Think about after the meal. Are you going to move around? Are you going for an after meal walk? Are you going to walk around the mall? Great, because that is a nice troubleshooting effort that maybe we want to focus on if you feel like you can't really control, the whole carbohydrate load at that meal. Walking after that mealtime helps reduce your blood sugar, staying well hydrated on water. That's going to help dilute the bloodstream of extra sugars. So there are small little changes and modifications that we can make to help troubleshoot any higher ranges if, we accidentally get a higher blood sugar from a meal that we might have eaten. So we want to make sure we're not eating out too regularly, but we want to feel prepared for when we do need to eat out for convenience. So one more thrown into the chain restaurant of things is Red Robin. Think of, all the options listed. Most of them are burgers. Not a whole lot of customization you can do other than kind of getting rid of the bun to limit your carbs, but you could get a good amount of protein on a double cheeseburger, right? Maybe eat half of the bun, still enjoying a bit of the bun, but not, eating the full amount. That's a great option, but also some fresh salads or wraps would be a great option here. Maybe even a soup or a cup of soup to give you a lower carb dense but higher protein and fiber option like this bean chili down here. The things that are most difficult to kind of, I don't say justify, but most difficult to kind of include in a blood sugar balanced diet are like the onion rings or the brownie sundae down there. They're delicious. They're great for every once in a while, but they aren't going to do your blood sugar any favors. So if you are partaking in those, enjoy, but share. Sharing is great. Smaller portion sizes, take some home, or going into it knowing it. You got to make that conscious decision that, this food is going to impact my blood sugar possibly negatively. So keeping a close eye. Don't skip on taking your blood sugar just because you're going to get a high blood sugar. We do not want that. We want to know what your blood sugars are. It's good to know your ranges. And then that way we can plan better for the next time. So all of these chain restaurants we've kind of gone through. There are some smaller restaurants in the area that we want to kind of touch on because with those smaller restaurants come possibly less or smaller portion sizes, which is good. They might have less substitution options. Like they might be very specific on no substitutions on sides or things like that. So we want to see what can we find on these specific smaller menus that could be more beneficial for blood sugar. I personally love smaller restaurants' appetizer options. Like you might find baked chicken wings. You might find the hummus plate. That's phenomenal, right? You've got a protein, you've got some vegetables. If you're really feeling snacky before that meal, those are the types of appetizers that you might want to go for. Lower carb dense, a little bit of protein, a little bit of fiber. Like sandwiches and things like that have that bread option. But if you pair that protein and fiber with it, you are sustained way longer than if you were just to eat the bread alone. If pizza, like we talked about before, pizza is a great shareable option. If that is your source and that's the thing you're going for, see what can you add. Can you get a side of like steamed broccoli or a side salad with it, just to give you that extra balance that might be helpful. Some places also offer cauliflower crust. While those are primarily probably for gluten-free patrons, it's great if you're trying to lower the carb density of that pizza and you were open to trying it. In my opinion, it doesn't taste like the crust, but it could be a fun substitute to try to see, did I enjoy this as much as I normally would? And it could impact your blood sugar in a more friendly way than if you were to have the regular pizza by itself. We also have our final restaurant today, and that's McGlynn's. So sometimes we go out to these places where alcoholic beverages or fun beverages are prioritized in the gathering. So we want to make sure we take that into account if we are scanning the menu. Alcohol often makes us eat more. So we want to think of, okay, are we making sure we're full and satisfied? If we're just going for a drink, are we making sure we've stayed well nourished through the day? Do we have protein and fiber and all those things in our system already? Or do we plan on eating there? Is that a possibility? Because maybe we want to eat first. Maybe we want to be in a nice headspace to be able to choose options that are more blood sugar friendly. But maybe we're going to eat after, and maybe we want to get something picked out ahead of time. These places also have like snacking peanuts. The plain snacking peanuts are great protein, keep you full and satisfied, help take that curb off that hunger. But they also offer, and McGlynn's offers like air popped popcorn. That's a nice little fiber option, lower in carb density. So you've got a little bit of something to take the edge off of that hunger as well. So allowing yourself to plan ahead. If you plan to have an alcoholic beverage or a sweetened beverage when you are out, making sure that you have something planned meal-wise if you intend on eating. Here, like McGlynn's has great wrap options. They've got great salad options. Like things like a Caesar salad probably wouldn't give you a whole lot of extra fiber, but possibly like a power wrap, or maybe you're doing an apple walnut salad, getting the dressing on the side, making some of those modifications and asking your server if that's a possibility can definitely help you manage those sugars a little bit better. So to wrap it all up, over-restricting isn't blood sugar friendly because usually over-restricting often ends in us binging on something higher in carb later on. But we can approach our meals in a way that we're concerned about managing our sugars. That helps us to be mindful in the types of foods that we're picking. So all foods fit. While we're eating out, it can be a challenge, but it's not impossible. It just involves a little bit of planning ahead of time, knowing what to look for, being mindful of our food choices that support our blood sugar. I've said it a million times, protein and fiber are your friend. And then lowering the total amount of carb you have, or picking your priority carb, right? Is it the bread at the beginning of the meal? Is it the main pasta at that meal? Is it the dessert after? Where are you getting your carb and what's most important to you? Because that will affect all the other food items that you choose and the order in which you eat them, right? So we don't want to overdo it in the beginning and then have to compensate later on and overeat carbs. It's going to cause your blood sugar to go up inevitably. So one bad blood sugar, right? If you go out to eat every now and then, right? One bad blood sugar is not going to dictate the journey, but the frequency of eating out matters. So this is not condoning like eating out every single day, that you can do it. I'm sure it's possible, but we want to make sure that you're also focusing on what we call like the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time we're eating lots of fruits, lots of vegetables, lots of whole grains, lots of whole foods. And then 20% of that time we're enjoying eating out with friends and family, because we know food is more than just fuel. It's enjoyment, it's community, it's cultural. So this allows us to kind of tap into that. And we can't eat 100% perfect all the time. It is impossible. But that consistency of going back and being mindful of those choices that impact your blood sugar are going to be what's most beneficial. And we want you to feel prepared so that you know what to look for, you know how to approach it. And then, of course, be sure to talk to your dietitian about any local spots that you're having trouble finding options at, because we're happy to discuss those things. And that wraps it up. You guys have any questions?
All right. Thank you, Caroline. So this was a lot of information. So we are not getting any sponsorship from these chain restaurants, are we?
No, this is just
Because
like
I didn't get
local
any.
places you might visit.
So I know we didn't get anything. So I'm actually just checking a couple of things here with the screen. All right. So I think one of the most important issues is, and we have the same problem with our bariatric program, planning. Like, are we able to plan and just see what's coming on our way? So we are not telling anyone not to enjoy what they do, but with the better planning and when you end up at the restaurant, these restaurants, it's been a while that I haven't been in one of those. So the they're saying that my mic is a little bit too low. So let's see. We'll adjust that a little bit. So these many of these places, they are pretty dangerous, not just for people with diabetes, but for many of us. So the amount of salt we take, amount of other chemicals we are kind of exposed to, is just way too much. So, but still, there is a good balance. We are not telling people not to eat anything and not to do anything. They can still enjoy what they have to do with their friends. But planning is going to be the key. The mindful eating is going to be the key. So those are kind of like problematic for the individuals. So the other thing that I don't know if I missed that or not, but the size of the plates.
Yeah.
It's like someone who has a European background. In Turkey, we don't really have these big, giant plates. So it does make it like when I'm there, it's kind of interesting when I'm like, oh, like there's way too much food on the plate, but it's really not. And when when we come to US, all of a sudden, like I have these potter bun plates that are like this big. And then you put something there and it looks really small and then it kind of encourages you to eat more, and that's a problem. So uh, even the glasses, they're smaller. If you end up getting any McDonald's drive-through and then by mistake if you just change it to a large order, the Diet Coke or the Coke that you get is this big. It's almost inhumane, almost inhumane. So uh, those are kind of like people, not just only with diabetes, but anyone, they should be watching. The earlier what I was going to show you, let me actually just share very quickly. I won't take too much time on this one. So this is Elon Musk sharing his, I think I don't know why this big billionaire has a pretty, trashy bedroom, but anyhow, these are the number of Diet Cokes that he had. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is at his bedside. So you would expect someone like him to be more knowledgeable, at least if you are doing it. Like, for example, when I cheat with McDonald's, so I don't post that or I don't tell people, hey, I'm doing it this often or that often. It just, yes, we do it, but we are not promoting it. But like when I see this, because we cover his weight issues in the last couple of sessions with Dr. Ergal, and it is a problem. Like if he thinks that those are Diet Coke and then he's drinking that many, uh, and then sharing it openly, it's where why actually we do these sessions, because many people, they still don't understand. Like Diet Coke doesn't mean it's sugarless. It may actually even harm your body even more. And patients with diabetes, they may not really understand the impact of that either. But I think the whole thing on um, you know understanding these and try to kind of protect yourself from what you see is kind of important, and not to listen to everyone, because everyone is an expert. So everyone is going to tell you something. And, you know, um, coming from a pretty opinionated family and then having like 3 siblings, like I'm like, everyone is a doctor in the family. and everyone wants you to do certain things, but the truth is there's only one way to do it, and that's from the professionals who has this specialties and expertise in this. So listen to your dietitian, and that's not me, and that's not Donna, that's Caroline and the other four members that we have. So this is again beginning of the year. Many people when we do the case conferences, at least in my team, I see a lot of patients who don't really take care of their A1C levels. And this is sometimes true with hypertension. And as it goes to the kidney-related problems, heart-related problems, it is extremely important for us to pay attention. So, and I think we learn from each of these sessions every time. So, thank you for presenting that.
Absolutely.
Donna?
I really like the point that you brought out, Kemal, because when you go to those places, yes, it's choosing all those options, but I think you're right, and being mindful of the plate size, right? Because sometimes you get overwhelmed just when they bring this plate and they sit it in front of you and it takes over, half the table. So I think it is a good idea if you know they're going to be a big portion. I never thought about asking the box in advance. Usually you get that at the end. So I think that's something I kind of learned from today, to kind of put that aside, because then the visual of only eating a part of that is a lot. I think sometimes we do, as we're talking and socializing, we just keep eating. And I think that's a good way to minimize some of that, especially if you know that you have a tendency to eat more on that. So always learn new tips and tricks here. So hopefully it is helpful for others as well.
Absolutely. All right. Well, any other questions or closing remarks?
No, I'm good.
So stay away from Elon Musk's Twitter page. Not like last time he was at McDonald's. This time he has 6 or 7 cans of Diet Coke. So not a good place to be. But stay tuned with what we do at United TV. Now, Caroline and Donna, I think with this session, maybe right after this, and with the bariatric, we are almost at 100,000 subscribers.
Cool.
This is a huge milestone for us, and thank you for being part of it. And I know every month we have several different sessions that we are presenting, and it is working out, and we have a lot of people who are appreciating what we do. Well, thank you for joining us. We'll be back with Bariatric Friday with Dr. Erkan in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.